its ideals, to fight for the ideals of our country, and to fight for the promise of America.
The promise of America. That line there, building on the address she gave last night, is really as spare as it is fundamental. The promise of America. When you couple that with the address last night and how it called for a patriotism that defends democracy and actually prizes bipartisanship over an endless partisan war, these are the kind of things that, let's be clear, could be uttered by John McCain or Ronald Reagan in his statesman era, or Liz Cheney after Trump's coup drove her from that party of Reagan and Bush Cheney. It could have been uttered in a similar style by really any of the founding fathers. And as Rachel was reporting in MSNBC's special speech coverage last night, you might have seen the speech or some of the coverage, this was quite clearly Kamala Harris's most important speech of this campaign homestretch, perhaps Harris's most significant speech until the one she will give when she steps to the lectern when all the votes are in, to either concede or assume the presidency. So she stood at that MAGA crime scene to present not only a rebuke of what Trump did there after the votes famously showed his loss, but to go beyond criticism. Last night, she tried to embody what leadership actually entails. Remember, Trump asked people to come to that very spot on a date, January 6th, which had never before been a time to gather. We can remind you about 20,000 people came there. Many went to prison for what they did that day in Washington. Well, Harris summoned a far more peaceful and law-abiding crowd, but also a much larger crowd. You can see it here. You might have seen it in the coverage last night. It actually spanned 75,000 people. The contrast clear from substance to style. Her campaign arguing in this closing that America faces a choice between prosecutor and criminal, uniter versus divider, a stateswoman, a sitting vice president, versus an autocrat driven from office once. Fundamentally, her campaign argues it's a choice between the leader that America needs right now and a petty loser whose lies and grievances are only rivaled by his strange political resilience. So what you're about to hear right now as we begin our broadcast is the actual contrast between these two closing arguments.
No one takes her seriously. Everyone knows she is a very low IQ individual.
On day one, if elected, Donald Trump would walk into that office with an enemies list. When elected, I will walk in with a to-do list.
Kamala Harris is a radical left Marxist, rated even worse than crazy Bernie Sanders or Pocahontas. She destroyed our economy.
I pledge to seek common ground and common sense solutions to make your life better.
They are indeed the enemy from within, but this is who we're fighting.
Unlike Donald Trump, I don't believe people who disagree with me are the enemy. He wants to put them in jail. I'll give them a seat at the table.
Even that enemy, too, and they're really the enemy. They're the enemy of the people, the press. We had stupid generals like Milley and Mattis, weak, stupid people.
Nearly 250 years ago, America was born when we wrested freedom from a petty tyrant. Those who came before us, the patriots at Normandy and Selma, Seneca Falls and Stonewall, on farmlands and factory floors. They did not struggle, sacrifice, and lay down their lives only to see us cede our fundamental freedoms. They didn't do that only to see us submit to the will of another petty tyrant.
Those are the actual closing arguments of these two people. What do you want me to say? I mean, don't make me repeat lines conclusion, sentences like that is as stark a contrast as you'll see in any election in your lifetime. Don't make me say if this were a movie, this closing contrast would be too obvious, too overdone. This is not a movie. It's true the politician openly threatening to steal the whole election and jail opponents as soon as he wins is a washed-up game show host. That is on the nose, but the stakes are too high. Or as one Politico manifesto from De La Soul put it, you know them stakes is high. Sick of liars and their sickening rap. Risking a whole sick world collapse, the facts are getting sicker. Even sicker, perhaps, to make you want to escape this whole synapse. Like, who wouldn't want to just escape processing all these realities through the neurons in our own brain? Because these realities are concerning, depressing, exhausting, if we're going to be honest about it. The point of that verse, though, is to reject the temptation to seek out lies or drugs to escape the unpleasant reality. For the reason you already know. The stakes are too damn high for that. So that's what elections are for. Our obligation is to face it and change it if we can. Those are the stakes. We'll be back in 90 seconds with two special guests.
Yes, no, I don't want to. Okay, I'll hold.
I called about the custom knitted scarf.
Couple of months.
Can I get the tiny oven?
I've been here for like 5 days.
What?
Now for Dwayne. I am wife of the year.
So easy.
Where is Dwayne?
Where'd you get those shoes? The ones that are in it to win it. That always make the grade. And take the words of office seriously. A shoe for every you. At DSW.
Replenish electrolytes lost through sweat with extraordinary hydration. Faster hydration than water alone, and 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink. Tear, pour, live more. Liquid IV.
When I worked for Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan, I learned about commitment. Senator Moynihan committed his life to government service. This is what commitment looks like. Building New York's newest train station was Senator Moynihan's idea. It took 30 years and never giving up. When we register to vote, we make a lifetime commitment to democracy, a commitment to vote for all levels of government, working together to build a better America.
We become like a garbage can for the rest of the world. They're throwing all their garbage into our country. And we're not taking it, and they know we're not taking it. I will rescue every town across America that's been invaded and conquered. They've been conquered. These towns have been conquered. And we will put these vicious and bloodthirsty criminals in jail.
It's part of Donald Trump's closing arguments at these high-stake final addresses, him there suggesting that people who come to the United States are a type of garbage that makes the United States a type of garbage can for them. That's one of many sort of aggressive, vile things he said in his closing arguments. We just looked at the contrast between his and Harris's. Today, she's also welcoming more Republican support, over 100 veterans of security officials backing this ticket, 13 former Trump aides who say Donald Trump is unfit to serve. Then there are other officials who have spoken out, who've documented what they've said, but are still supporting Donald Trump. Take Ambassador Gordon Sondland. You may remember he was a star impeachment witness. He detailed under oath what he said he saw in the administration, a shakedown effort of the Ukrainian government to try to go after Joe Biden long before he beat Trump. Clearly back then, Donald Trump had some idea that Joe Biden was a political problem for him. Sondland then publicly said that he would not support Trump after January 6th, but is now back to supporting Trump.
I was completely in until January 6th. It was a no for me after that.
You said it was a no for me after that, after January 6th.
I did.
And here we are right now.
I did.
And you're saying it's a yes for you.
It is a yes for me. It is an absolute yes for me. I am seeing so many attacks on democracy that eclipse January 6th.
Ambassador Sondland fits in the middle of these many different Trump figures that we have been covering. And as we look at closing arguments, we can listen to the candidates, we can listen to the campaigns, we can interview people. We also bring in sometimes people with primary source experience in the field. In this case tonight, from both campaign apparatuses. Political strategist Che Komanduri is a veteran of 3 presidential campaigns, including the Obama-Biden campaign. And as mentioned, Ambassador Gordon Sondland, who is now back to supporting Trump. Welcome to both of you. I just showed the contrast. I want to have you talk to me and each other. Let's start with you, Che. Your view of what we just saw there, these contrasting closing arguments.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, the contrast couldn't be clearer. You know, Bill Clinton famously said that campaigns are about the future, not about the past. Donald Trump is very much about the past, his own past grievances, his own past prejudices, I would say. And Harris is really about the future, about creating a better future where we're all unified, bringing people together, and having a positive, uplifting message.
Ambassador?
Wow, that was a pretty melodramatic opening, Ari. I don't agree with anything I heard in the last 3 minutes. Donald Trump, yes, has his grievance sort of loop that he goes through. That's part of who he is. I'm not going to defend it, excuse it. It's just how he speaks. But, you know, I look back to 4 fairly sanguine years before COVID, and I look at things like the Space Force, which were developed, new vaccines which were developed. There was all kinds of forward motion going on between 2000 and, you know, when he was elected and when he left office. So I don't share that view. You juxtaposed a piece from the Madison Square Garden rally with a more soaring speech from Kamala Harris. And of course, it looks terrible.
You think it looks terrible?
I do. I do.
Why?
Because I don't think that is really his closing argument. That was a rally. That was, you know, getting the gang together.
I'll let you finish, but just so viewers understand, the campaign literally billed that in advance on the record as his, quote, closing argument.
And so
hold on.
The
Gordon,
campaign also had.
Gordon, I'm going to finish. Gordon, I'm going to enforce rules of the road this whole time. You've been on the program before. I'm going to finish, and then you'll get a chance to respond. So I just want the audience and the citizens to understand the campaign literally billed it as a closing argument. Then we saw what happened, both from the guest speakers. We quoted tonight the former president, Donald Trump. And so if you find it terrible, melodramatic, a rough contrast, as is often the case in life, I think your problem, your issue, is not with the editing, not with the clips, is with the facts of what Donald Trump said there, and you're supporting him now. So go ahead.
Yeah, I'm supporting him because I think he wants to take our country back in the correct direction. Kamala Harris had co-stewardship of our country for 4 years with Joe Biden. And all of the things she's talking about doing, she was nowhere to be found in the last 4 years. And yes, you can excuse the fact that she was vice president, not president, but she was also the last person in the room. And there have been no tangible deliverables by Kamala Harris in 4 years.
Jay?
I rest my case.
Well, you can't rest yet because we're still in the middle of the argument. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, first of all, I think